Joining me now, who is listening, National Security Advisor Jake Sallivan. Jake, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me, Chuck.
Look, I want to give you a chance right now to respond. Obviously, when a country is at war, the weapons never come fast enough when you've got people coming in a hot shooting war. What can the United States be doing right now to accelerate this process? Because clearly, whether it's President Zelensky in his interview with the Associated Press or what you heard just there from the foreign minister, none of it is coming fast enough for them.
Well, when you're in the middle of a war where you're being attacked by your neighbor, by Russia, in the brutal and vicious ways that Russia is attacking Ukraine, it only stands to reason that you'd be asking for things to come as rapidly as possible, that they get there yesterday. And we are doing everything we can as the United States, working around the clock to deliver our own weapons. And as the foreign minister just said, organizing and coordinating the delivery of weapons from many other countries so that Ukraine has what it needs. Weapons are arriving every day, including today. And this week, along with Chairman Milley, I spent 2 hours on the phone with the chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces and President Zelensky's top aide. And we went through every weapon system that Ukraine is seeking in priority order, and we have developed plans to deliver those as rapidly as possible. Some have been delivered, others are in the process of being delivered, and we will continue to work aggressively to get Ukraine what it needs to strengthen its hand on the battlefield and to strengthen its hand at the bargaining table.
A few weeks ago, you made a distinction between defensive weapons and offensive weapons. And it was interesting to hear the foreign minister say that he actually thought the United States was no longer seeing it through that prism, but he did say he thought other members of the alliance were, and he singled out Germany. First of all, is there a distinction anymore in your mind? And if there is there a case to be made that it's time to give Ukraine offensive weapons so they can win this war?
So, given the nature of the battle, how things have shifted and adjusted, and what the Russians have done, frankly, killing civilians, atrocities, war crimes, we have gotten to a place in the United States and across many members of the NATO alliance where the key question is, what does Ukraine need and how can we provide it to them? And that is the work that we are doing every day. And I'd just like to point out, Chuck, something very important, which is that the foreign minister just told you Ukraine won the Battle of Kyiv. Kyiv stands despite Russia's effort to take and conquer the capital. And it stands chiefly because of the bravery and skill of the Ukrainian fighters, but it also stands because American weapons and Western weapons were in their hands, stopping tanks, shooting down aircraft, and turning back the Russians. And we are proud of that contribution, but we are not resting until we have given them everything that they need to be able to succeed in their aims.
Is our posture now, we're going to do whatever it takes to help Ukraine win this war? Because I say it that way. A month ago, I don't think there was a thought, how do we end the violence and get to the negotiating table? How do we get peace? And I know peace is still a priority here. But if the Russians aren't moving from the east, and this appointment of a more brutal general seems to indicate they're in for the long haul, is our policy unequivocal on this? We're going to do what it takes to help Ukraine win this war and push Russia out of the east.
Our policy is unequivocal that we will do whatever we can to help Ukraine succeed. And it will be Ukraine, President Zelensky and the democratically elected government of Ukraine, that determines what that success constitutes, which means that we need to keep giving them weapons so that they can make progress on the battlefield, and we need to keep giving them support, military support, and strong economic sanctions to improve their position, their posture at the negotiating table. But at the end of the day, what we want to see is a free and independent Ukraine, a weakened and isolated Russia, and a stronger, more unified, more determined West. We believe that all three of those objectives are in sight, can be accomplished, and we will do what it takes to support the Ukrainians in their effort to help bring those objectives about.
Are we now going to do what it takes to get them fighter jets, if that's something they need? I know that had been up in the air before. Is that changed?
So the only thing that the United States has expressed reservations about is sending fighter jets from a U.S. airbase in Germany into contested airspace over Ukraine, flying them from point A to point B. If a country in Eastern Europe wants to supply MiG-29s or other forms of Soviet aircraft, we have said that is their sovereign decision. The only thing we have said we would not do is make that transfer from Germany. From our perspective, though, the weapons that the Ukrainians are really focused on right now, that the chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces walked through with us, are weapons that, if they're not in American stocks, and many of them aren't, we are working very hard to acquire them, source them from other countries, get them delivered and into the hands of Ukrainian fighters. That's an ongoing process day by day. And the whole of the U.S. government, under the direction of President Biden, is working overtime to make that happen as rapidly as possible, because we agree with the Ukrainian foreign minister. Time is of the essence. And we are in a race against time, and we intend to win that race.
On the punishment front of the Russians, 19 different countries this week expelled diplomats of one flavor or another. We have not. By some estimates, there's some 400 Russian diplomats circulating in this country. I know that there are some that are concerned that maybe these folks will be helping with a cyber attack or helping with other ways to punish the West or to retaliate against the West. Why haven't we sent some of these folks out of the country and expelled them?
Well, first of all, Chuck, and sorry for not letting you finish the question. We have, in fact, expelled 12 Russian diplomats. And many of these countries that announced actions this week were catching up to the previous American announcement of expulsions. Now, of course, we're always on the lookout for anyone connected to espionage or spy services, and we will not hesitate to take further action to declare persona non grata, to expel, to kick out further Russian quote-unquote diplomats if we determine they're spies. But we did actually take an expulsion action just a few weeks ago.
Sure, but 12 is not 400.
No, I mean, if you look at the way that we do this, every year we take an assessment of who we believe is operating under cover of one of the Russian spy services. If we make a determination that someone's here not as a diplomat but as a spy, we kick them out. And we'll continue to do that.
It was quite the symbol to see Prime Minister Boris Johnson walking the streets of Kyiv with President Zelensky. It raises the question, are we going to see President Biden in Kyiv?
President Biden doesn't currently have any plans to travel to Kyiv. But what I will tell you is he sits in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room on a daily basis, organizing and coordinating the world when it comes to the delivery of weapons. And you heard from the Ukrainian foreign minister, no one has given more than the United States, and the United States is at the center of the effort to deliver from other countries, and organizing and coordinating the world to take actions like the one last week to kick Russia out of the Human Rights Council. So President Biden will stay focused on that and make sure that he is showing his support and solidarity to the Ukrainian people through those kinds of decisive actions.
Would you rule it out? If there was a reason to go, he would get there?
President Biden has been to Kyiv before. He looks forward to going to Kyiv again, but we're not currently planning a trip.
Jake Sallivan, the National Security Advisor, appreciate you coming on and sharing the administration's perspective.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.